Michigan has been one of the premier universities in terms of producing elite defensive linemen year in and year out. We have already highlighted a few of the Wolverines' top draft prospects, but defensive tackle Kenneth Grant is a player who I think is an absolutely phenomenal talent. A monster in the middle with solid athleticism and pass rush upside. How high could we see him taken in the 2025 NFL Draft? That is what we will be discussing in today's video. But hey guys, if you guys are new to the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon page, which I will leave linked down in the description below. For $5 a month, you guys will get exclusive access to my draft guide and player evaluations, where we already have 500 prospects on the big board and counting. So if you enjoy my draft content, I highly recommend checking it out. Leave a comment and let me know which players you guys would want to see in a future video, and without further ado, let's take a closer look at Kenneth Grant. Grant has been a pretty productive player for the Wolverines over the past couple of seasons, and was a big part of the national championship team in 2023. He played in 403 snaps for the Michigan defense, and he finished with 23 pressures, 5 sacks, and 19 tackles on the year, which was pretty solid. In 2024, he's had a bigger role thus far, and he has played up to it. He already has 11 total pressures, 2 sacks, and 11 tackles, and he's shown some really solid production for the Wolverines early on in the season. Grant has some incredibly impressive size on the interior of the Michigan defense. He is 6'3", 338 pounds, and is an absolute tank. He has the length, size, and weight combination that you look for in a modern nose tackle, and I really love that about him. The thing that really separates Grant from other nose tackles is I think he shows some really solid athleticism. He has a really quick first step off the line of scrimmage, and he shows some really solid overall movement abilities. He shows some really nice athletic tools overall, and he is a very good mover for a player over 330 pounds. He is rumored to run a 4.95 40, which is absolutely exceptional for a player of his size. I think NFL teams could fall in love with the traits. Grant shows some really nice versatility as both a pass rusher and a run defender. He has made some really nice strides as a pass rusher. He's a powerful player, and he has a really solid bull rush for the position, but on top of that, I think he shows some decent pass rush moves. He plays with active hands, and shows excellent hand placement, and does a really good job of leveraging his hands, powering through offensive linemen, but also countering offensive linemen's hands as well. But he also is a really good run defender, and he's been very productive in that regard. He closes gaps in the run game extremely well, and he is a very strong and consistent tackler. He's accumulated 29 run stops in his collegiate career, and has been a very productive player in all phases of the defense. I think when you're looking for the biggest issues in Kenneth Grant's game, it has to be his pad level and inconsistency in his stance. Very often, he plays pretty high at the line of scrimmage, and this causes him some problems. Grant is a player who thrives on his power profile, and when he plays high, he is unable to push the pocket at such a high rate, and he is often pushed off the ball. When you watch the tape, so often in the run game, he is pushed away from his gaps because he plays high and is unable to generate that lower body power. But I also think it causes him to lunge at times and play a bit out of control. He has to clean up his pad height because it could lead to a plethora of issues at the NFL level if he doesn't learn to play lower and generate power from his lower body. The other concern many people have with Grant is his stamina. Up to this point in his college career, he has yet to prove that he can be a 3-down player. He has some athletic tools and upside you may want, but if he's unable to stay on the field for every down and doesn't have the stamina to be on the field consistently, it will inevitably cause him to slip on draft night. The stamina has been an issue his entire collegiate career, and I would like to see that improve for his sake. Kenneth Grant, while he shows you some really good tools, has really elite size, and I think has a lot of things that you'd like to see in a defensive tackle, is still a pretty raw defensive prospect, and I think that's almost what excites you the most. He has to clean up some areas of consistency, but if he's already this good and he's still looked at as a raw player, the ceiling is really high for him. He is my number 3 defensive tackle in the draft class. It's a loaded defensive tackle class as well, but I think he has the tools to be one of the top overall prospects in the class, regardless of position. He is my number 29 overall player on my big board. Grant is a scheme-versatile defensive tackle prospect who I think profiles best as a nose tackle due to his skill set as a run defender and his abilities to close up gaps in the run game. He's a great space eater up front for the defense, and Michigan has used him in a number of different ways, so I wouldn't be so stuck on the idea of him playing nose at the NFL level. I think he could play in a number of different positions, could be a 3-tech because he is active with his hands, and I think that's something that makes him really intriguing as a prospect. The player that reminds me most of Kenneth Grant is Detroit Lions defensive tackle DJ Reader. Reader is a player who has been one of the more productive nose tackles in the NFL for quite a few seasons, and he's not just a run stuffer. While he does defend the run at a very high level, Reader has also been a very productive pass rusher as well, and he shows the tools to be able to make life more difficult on the quarterback. We have seen pretty quickly how much of an impact Reader had on the Bengals' defensive line, and he is a really good player who I think is one of the more underappreciated players in the NFL. And I think Grant has a lot of the same traits, and they've got nearly identical size as well, so that's my comparison. Kenneth Grant is a giant human being. He has elite size, length, and athleticism for the nose tackle position, and while he is a raw prospect, his upside is through the roof. I think he is an awesome player who is going to be taken really high, and I believe that Kenneth Grant will be a first-round pick in the 2025 NFL Draft.